agree with Alan Greenspan, we ought to just eliminate the debt ceiling. Oh, absolutely, we do.
The ability of almost every working American to access more credit than they should have been able to masked the underlying fact that lower and middle class incomes were not rising.
That's not a tenable strategy. Isn't now the time to eliminate it? Oh, it would have been time a long time ago.
Let's put aside terrorism. Let's talk only about our own homegrown animals that are patrolling America right now. So it goes down to the simplest thing. Be prepared, be vigilant.
James Walton with I Am Liberty, folks. Up before the sun. Up before the sun. The blue sky is just starting to be shaded. Out here walking the dogs. The trees are still black. Against the backdrop of the sun struggling to get up over the horizon. I love when they're black like this and they loom over you. It's kind of terrifying to look at, but I almost know these trees by name now. I've been walking with them for so many years. But Sunday, don't usually record podcasts on a Sunday, but we have to talk about Sunday. We have to talk about Sunday, September the 11th, 2016. The 15-year anniversary from the time when radicalized Muslims visited this nation, learned how to fly planes, returned to this nation to kill thousands of people. Can we call it that? Can we say it like that? Rather than, how's it going to be said in the media today? Let's think about it. On this day when two hijackers flew planes into the Twin Towers. That's what we'll hear about today. Two hijackers. Were they hijackers? Yes, of course. They hijacked a plane. But the way this thing should be reported, this horrible event, and the reason the real media, right, what was the group of people that garnered the name the media, I guess. You know, when you think of media, who pops up in your head? The reason these people, the local media, is all the censored media, I guess. The reason that they're on the downturn is because they're going to say just that. They're going to say just that. They're going to wake up this morning. They're going to say, on this somber day when two hijackers flew both planes into the World Trade Centers and thousands of Americans died. We bow our heads for this 15-year anniversary. And next in news, there's a mattress sale. And that's part of the problem. Part of the problem is that we should be saying these Saudi Arabians, terrorists, radical Muslims, governed by some madness ginned up in their holy book, decided to come on over to America for free flying lessons, or flying lessons that were paid for by oil money. They got their flying lessons and they returned with smiles on their faces. And they flew planes into the World Trade Center, into the Pentagon, battled with the people in central Pennsylvania. What a story that was in and of itself, right? What a story. That downed plane in central Pennsylvania. You look back on the moment, it's hard to believe it's actually real. And I just wanted to give you my perspective briefly on it, because the fact of the matter is I was so young at the time. I had no geopolitical understanding of what was going on. You know, I was 15. I was 15 years old. September 2011. And I was trying to figure out, I was still stuck in the World War II mindset. You get me? I was still very much wrapped up in the World War II ideology of country attacks country. My country's the best, so we go to war and we crush your country, and that's the end. You know, I was very short-sighted on this thing. And what's amazing to wrap your head around is, at that point, I think I was sitting probably in 8th, 9th grade. Probably 9th or 10th grade, I guess. And here we are now, to let you know how obscene this thing is, and how obscene this American military is being run, and how weakened, and how terrifying the protocols put in place by George Bush, the protocols put in place by Barack Obama, how they have crippled this government, or this military rather. They have so crippled this military that now the same child who watched these attacks begin in his mother's living room early morning, September 11, 2001. I'm now walking my dogs, who are themselves nearing death, right? One dog is 10 years old, the other dog is 7 years old. I'm walking them through my neighborhood in a house where I own 2 babies, a wife, a career. How much I have changed in those 15 years. And my military is still in the sands of the desert, fighting, all basically based off of that singular event that was brought on by the whole weapons of mass destruction argument. Now, I don't want to go down that road, because that's an ugly road. That's an ugly road, and that could take a whole show in and of itself, but just the idea that these attacks sparked what would become the Iraq War. And here we sit still. My father warned me a long time ago of no-win wars. No-win wars, but I was still caught up in the idea of, the great American military from World War II, who my grandparents were involved in. Right? Grandpops were both in that. Decisive endings on both sides. It cost the Russians, 500 million or 500,000, I don't know the number exactly, soldiers to stop Hitler. It would have probably cost us similar to stop the Japanese if we hadn't dropped the atomic bomb and leveled those areas. Of course, many died. Many died, but you look back on it and see what kind of a regime was being ran. You know, a lot of Americans like to argue that point some 60 years later. You know what I mean? A lot of Americans like to do that. They like to get in big arguments. They'd rather have seen their grandfathers die or their great-grandfathers die than have America drop those bombs. I can't figure it out. I can't wrap my head around that. A lot of your typical American will give you an argument now because they've heard so much jibber-jabber about the nuclear bomb and how much damage it did and how terrible it was. And there's no denying that's true. But they go so far that they're actually willing to say, hey, you know what? We should have never dropped that bomb. And when you give them the line about what it would have taken to capture those Japanese islands and the men that would have been lost, your grandpa, my grandpa, all dead. Right? More than likely. That's where these people were headed. I know because I had a grandfather who was headed in that direction. I had a grandfather who captured the monsters that put the men, the American soldiers, through the Bataan Death March. Right? I won't tell you any more about what they did to them, but he was part of that terror. Captured the leaders of the Bataan Death March. And from there, his next set of orders, and I don't know if it was directly from there, but his next set of orders were he was going to be shipped off to start fighting on the Japanese islands. That was the war that was still to come. And you'll have people look you straight in the face and tell you we never should have. They negate their own existence, right? To say that we should have never dropped the bombs, our grandfathers should have died in war, and we should have never existed from the get-go. Whether they understand they're arguing that or not, they argue that to your face, and it's amazing to watch. But that was the war world that I was living in. That was the world that I was in. I thought that's how it went at the time, because I was young and naive, and I was only chasing things with pretty eyes. That's all I was really worried about at 15 years old. And guitars. So, still to this day I'm learning about what war means. I mean, are we fighting for the people who died in the September 11th attack still? Or are we fighting to line the pockets of some comfortable senators and congressmen, and will you be the judge? That's how adulterated and how disrupted and how corrupted this military has become under the last 2 presidents. Probably under the last 3 presidents. Probably under the last 4 presidents. Probably under the last 5 presidents. That's the reality. But we're not here to talk about that today. This morning. God, it's a nice morning. It's about 75. The birds are chirping. The pit bulls are panting. It's quiet in my neighborhood. And it's beautiful in America. And it's good to be an American, and it always is good to be American. And it's just like my father told me, Jimmy, you live in the best country. You're always going to have the best. As long as you do the right thing. And you know what? He's right. And he was right. And on a day like September 11th, 2011, you saw Americans pull together like never before. Right? You saw Americans come together in a way that was really, truly incredible and amazing. And I enjoyed that. What happened was a certain type of American was born that day, right? That Glenn Beck, if you remember Glenn Beck, I don't even know if he's relevant anymore. He went completely off the rails. He got too much money and too much religion and just went totally off the rails. I used to listen to him a lot. But then he went down a rabbit hole. I thought I saw him one morning on one of those early morning send us money and we'll send you blessings, teleprompter reading nonsense shows. So he called them the 912ers, right? And I thought it was a good, an apt name, right? Because on September 12th, 2001, America was, God, we were ironclad. We were iron, man. It was said that even in New York City, people were holding doors, helping people. You know, that we were turned into the nation that we should be for everything that we have. Because of this, you know, well, and it works a lot. You see this sort of methodology work a lot, no matter where you're at. Not just a nation. It can be at work. It can be in a club. It can be in any group. It can be in war. But when you're united against a common enemy, you usually do tend to be very productive and very tight-knit when you are united against a common enemy. And that's one of those things that I saw in 9/12. And maybe it's not a sustainable thing for a nation to be like that. Maybe it's not sustainable for humans to be like that. But I will say for some, it reignited something. You know, it reignited something that I dare say we needed at that point in time. And here we sit again with an almost similar patriot. What is this word I can muster here? Patriotification? Patriotizing another group. You know, for all his faults, for everything bad you can say about Donald Trump and what might happen if he becomes president, there is a resounding patriotism in the air, right? There's a resounding sense of pride in America right now. And I can't, for a second, there's this whole movement by Under Armour putting out this great line of clothing that's giving money to the troops. And there's just, everywhere I look, there's a level of patriotism that I haven't seen in a long time. And I can't imagine that's coming from the other side. That's not coming from the Hillary Clinton supporters, right? Can't be. Can't be. So these ebbs and flows of patriotism, they're exciting to me. And as we look back 15 years now, we're talking about a 15-year anniversary of the most insane thing that's happened from an attack standpoint to the U.S. in my lifetime. The thousands that were lost, the pictures, the videos, terrifying. The whole thing was just one big terrifying mess. And we have to be somber, and we have to be reflective on that. And we also have to look at the situation as it is in America today and say, are we setting ourselves up for something similar to happen? In other words, are we piecing together in America where something like September 11, 2011 would not happen or would happen again? Because that should be our goal, and that should be the overwhelming goal of the government, to assure that something like that never happens again. And whatever protections and whatever policies need to be put in place, that's what we do. And of course, we've got to be measured in that too. We've got to be careful about protections and policies and making sure that they don't infringe on Americans' rights. It's not an easy game. Department of Homeland Security, Department of this, Department of that. Their job's not easy, let's be honest. Their job's not easy because at any moment they can infringe on our God-given rights, and that's a problem. I mean, we could throw them under the bus a lot. We could argue that they're doing a terrible job, and in some cases they are. But they're up against a serious foe. They're up against a serious foe that's been understated for the last 8 years. Right? The president has basically said that this war against terrorism, ISIS is on the run, numbers are dwindling, nothing to be concerned of. All the while, the whole world is on fire from radical Islam. The whole world. You can almost spin a globe and put your finger down, and you wouldn't be very far from a nation that's struggling with their Muslim neighbors. All these years later, 15 years later now, me once a child, all grown up, now a man. So I guess just a moment to reflect today is all I ask from the I Am Liberty listeners. Reflect on what that day meant, what's happened in the nation since then, and what needs to happen going forward. And think about what candidate can make that happen. Be very unbiased, And think about that. Who's the leader that can build the nation that should be post 9/11, not pre 9/11? Because I see a world taking shape that gets me a little nervous. We're looking a little pre 9/11 when I see what we're setting ourselves up for. But let's move on from that topic, okay? Let's move on from that topic. You're going to hear enough about it. You've got, probably 15 minutes from me on it, and that's good enough. 18 try. I hope my 18 minutes are a lot different than everyone else's, though. I really do, and I think they are. Only because I have that ability to weave in and out of different thoughts. There are other things. There are other things. Have you read about North Korea? Have you heard about what's happening in North Korea? Have you heard about their incessant teachings, or testings rather, of these atomic bombs, what they're trying to achieve on a consistent basis? Now, they're laughable to a point. It's the thing about North Korea, I've said this before, they're laughable only to a point. right? When the rockets shoot, just fly up, go right off the coast, blow up in midair, or fly back and hit Kim Jong-un's BMW. Yeah, they're laughable. Or Dennis Rodman's private jet. They're laughable. But like everything else, right? Like ISIS, like this rapid expansion of technology that's happening in America that we see every day, with the Oculus Rift and with all the different technologies that are hitting. And like we talked about before, technology is an unstoppable force, whether you like it or not. It's going to keep going. It's like business. It's like capitalism. Ooh, capitalism, we hate it. We hate capitalism. Everything would be better if we just stopped capitalism. We could just live off tree bark and acorns. We could trade in acorns, and everybody would get an equal amount of acorns, and we could trade in them. And those who didn't have acorns could have tree bark. The dream society of many out there who are planning on voting for Hillary Clinton this coming fall. But like business and like technology, they're two unstoppable forces that just keep going, right? And unfortunately, that technology also lives in the war and weapons divisions as well. Things get smaller, things get better, things get faster, things get cheaper. That's how this all works. That's how this podcast works right now. It's me holding a phone. Do you know what I had in 15 years ago? When I was 15 years old, do you know what capabilities I had? I didn't even have a computer. I didn't even own a computer 15 years ago. A cell phone, you would have had to kill me to get me to carry a cell phone around. I didn't carry a pay, none of that. I carried a $20 bill around in my pocket, no wallet, and a mug root beer. That was about the contents of my everyday. My EDC kit consisted of just that, right? A $20 bill that I earned from doing chores around the house. Most of the time it was broken. Winter fresh gum, so I was fresh for the ladies if there was any important conversation that had happened between a 15 and 16-year-old. And a mug root beer, 2 liter. Do you know how far out of the realm of reality I was? Now look. Now here I am walking 2 beautiful dogs of the most beautiful breed there is. I mean, you look at these pit bulls and God, they are America. You can't tell me that the pit bull isn't America. The pit bull is America. That's all there is to it. They're just powerful and ferocious, right? And they're loyal. They're all the good things that Americans should be, right? I mean, look, I wish you could see this brindle, beautiful dog here. I might have to snap a picture and put it up for the show. But anyway, technology gets smaller, better, faster. And money buys it. Money gets it. No matter what, money will make its way into the hands of the most evil in the world. So in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, a lot of nations are going to be saying, yeah, we can hit America with a nuke from here. You don't think Iran's going to have that capability now that our president handed over the rights and a few extra billions on top of it to go ahead and develop their technology? No, we won't do that. We're just doing this just simply for the energy benefits, that's all. We have no intentions of bombing anyone. Israel, who we hate, not America, who we hate. No. We simply are interested in keeping the lights on. Right? Just simply interested in keeping the lights on over in Iran because they care so much about their civilians, or about their citizens, rather. You gotta understand, they care so much about their citizens and their quality of life. Oh. Are these references and these jokes fall on deaf ears? You guys just want to talk about running backs and quarterbacks this morning? Does anybody even care about 2011? September 11th, 2001? Probably not. I'd almost venture to say not, knowing the American public today. See, but that's a big fake in and of itself, too. Hold on a second. You're going to hear a lot of rustling and rumbling right now because I just got a fresh pile of pit bull shit to carry back to the house. I just harvested a fresh baggie of pit pit bull excrement that goes back to the house. You got to pick it up because it'll pollute everything. But on the lighter side, okay, we know North Korea is ginning up. China's behind them. We've got a candidate who I think will build the military up the way it needs to be. We're still spending, if you want to wrap your head around this, I got this through connection on Twitter yesterday. $640 billion last year we spent on the military. Now, I sent a scathing return message on that and said, 1/3 of it went towards sensitivity training, so let's not get too excited. But we're moving into a time when America better assert its dominance. It better. It has to assert its dominance. And today's a day when I feel like that is... A cicada just fell out of the tree behind me and died its last flaps. I love living here, man. But we've got to assert our dominance. It's that simple. If America doesn't take this time to build up arms and assert its dominance, take some of that at 600. What do we do with 640 billion? Let's be honest, right? We need to. Well, I don't want to go into the military plan right now. It's not enough show for that. But we're moving quickly into a time where everybody's going to have all the cool stuff that we have currently. And they're going to try to posture, man. You know why? Because the resources that are on the world stage today are going to be even more limited in 20, 30 years. The war for clean water is coming. Years ago, I talked about this war for water, and people laughed. This war for water, this war over water, this fight for water on a planet covered in water. What are you talking about, Jim? What are you talking about, dummy? The planet's 3/4 water, fool. Yeah, we'll see. Go to India and ask them about water. Ask them about their water world, right? And how 3/4 of a planet covered in 3/4 water is affecting their birth rates and their infant mortality rates. And this is a very real issue. It's only going to get more real, right? And it's only going to encourage gunshots. It's only going to encourage gunshots and bombs to go off. Food prices, all that. All that stuff is coming to a head in the very near future. Resource wars are what we'll see in the middle to the latter part of this century. And they may not be involved. America may not be involved, or they may. There may be intervention there. Oil war, you're going to see it all in this century. As these resources start to dwindle, it's not like India can come online and China can come online the way they have and just start sucking minerals and things out of the earth before areas start to go barren. This is the reality. This is the reality, and this is why I always go into the science fiction and people want to put money into climate change and figure out how can we. I was watching a show last night about the polar ice and how much it recedes in the summer now and the effect it's having on polar bears. And is it legitimate? Yeah, you can't argue with the measurements of the sea ice in Alaska and the effect it's having on polar bears. Do we need to paint the polar bears as though they are mindless little tree aphids that can't figure out how to survive because of that? Now, the infringement of people is not helping their situation at all. But I look at a situation like that, and I look at what we're asking, right? The sea ice has the sea ice has receded, like, I guess probably hundreds of miles from what its former glory, right? And the point is, whether that's man-made or not, how in the fuck are you going to reverse that? Do you really think that by putting more laws in place, driving certain types of cars and this thing and that thing, that you're going to reverse the sea ice melt and you're going to reverse the rising temperature on this planet? I look at it this way. It's about as long a shot as looking for another planet. It's about as long a shot as colonizing another planet, in my opinion. That's why I say, to hell with this nonsense on climate change. We should be figuring out and putting the dollars towards getting to Mars. Because here's the thing. In 20, 30 years, we could probably have a pretty good impact on carbon emissions, that type of thing. Maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't. Maybe the sun says fuck you and warms up the planet more. There's nothing we can do about that, so that doesn't matter. Not to mention the idea that this planet has a serious history of total mass extinction events, or severe weather events that caused almost all the species to go extinct. So let's keep that in mind when we talk about planet Earth. All that said, we probably have the same hope in colonizing a planet like Mars, getting a breathable atmosphere in there, and making a difference that way. Because what do you think's going to happen if about 50% of the world goes and lives somewhere else? Think that'll help? 25%? Come on, what if 25% of the world? What's it, 8 billion? So you can't tell me it wouldn't make a difference if 2 billion people left this planet right now to go live on Mars? It's a huge step. But you know what? So's getting a planet to cool down. Getting a planet to cool down is no easy feat. We're talking about it in these crazy terms like it's possible, like it's something that can happen. All you have to do is recycle. All we have to do is drive cleaner vehicles. Meanwhile, we're mating and reproducing like cockroaches on this planet. Let's be honest, every child has 2 children. Every child, just because the birth rate in America is down, just because the birth rate of Caucasian European Americans is down, that means nothing when you look at the world stage. Anyhow, that was a tangent. I liked that one. That was a good one. I don't even remember where we started. The polar bears. Oh, God, they make those polar bears out to look like idiots. They're the most vicious killers, genius, adaptable, live in the harshest weather ever. The people narrating and the climate change people wouldn't last 2 days in the environment that those polar bears live in. They wouldn't be able to find food. They wouldn't be able to find... Anyhow. I think this week, okay, so be on the lookout for a new show, because this week we are going to launch the virtual race. The first virtual race. This is the next step in our physical challenges movement here at I Am Liberty, right? So we'll be launching the Appalachian Trail Challenge, the virtual race, the I Am Liberty Appalachian Trail virtual race, which is essentially a 71-mile trek that you're going to cover by foot. You can hike it, you can run it, you can, backhand spring it if you were so inclined. And it's going to start this week. We're going to kick it off this week. I didn't want to kick it off today. It's not right. It's not that kind of a day. Though it would represent the power of America and its ability to rebound, it's a little too somber a day for me. So the way this thing's going to work, if you want to join the challenge, I'm going to put a page up on the website. I'll tweet something out, yada, yada, yada. There'll be plenty of opportunity for you to get involved. And there'll be a website. And I don't know the website off the top of my head, but there'll be a website link that you go to. And after you have run, so you get to run as much as you want every day. You can run a mile every day. The challenge is to cover 71 miles in 30 days. That's the challenge, okay? That's the Appalachian Trail Challenge. That's the virtual race. You can run wherever you want. You can walk wherever you want. You can walk around your living room 71 miles if that's what you want to do. Treadmills at the gym, it's all fair game as long as you keep track of how many miles you've traveled, right? And you'll go to the website and you will log those miles into our particular virtual race stat collector. And that's going to basically keep track of how far you've gone. And it's like I said, the total amount of miles, the goal is 71. So we want to see you hit that 71-mile marker in 30 days. There aren't going to be any awards for the person who gets there first or gets there the fastest or gets there whatever. It's not going to be any medals or winners in this one. This is merely a virtual race. Motivation to keep yourself in shape, because that's what we need. That's what we need in this country, right? Good motivations to keep ourselves in shape. What there will be is there'll be a t-shirt offered as well. I got t-shirts made. They'll be $14 a piece. They're beautiful. Super power green with a really cool logo that says the I Am Liberty Appalachian Trail Challenge. And they'll be up there as well to purchase if you want to wear your shirt while you run. I'll be buying one for sure. I'm sure I'll be buying one for Mrs. Liberty as well. And look for that next week. The I Am Liberty Appalachian Trail Challenge. Basically, they took a chunk of the Appalachian Trail, put it out there to be trekked at 71 miles, and that's the virtual end of it. It's cool, man. You know what I mean? It's an exciting thing. It's a good way to get you into exercise and fitness without having to do the same old nonsense. I've seen that shirt.